Having spent some time with Google's leadership, I think they're pivoting towards it pretty rapidly and know that they've got to get in front of users in a different way to really show up differently and regain share. I think they're going to continue to lose it otherwise if they stay with what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think they are very incentivized to roll out AI mode as fast as they possibly can because, like you said, they're worried about losing like share to ChatGPT. Why would someone go to a platform that isn't Google? It's ChatGPT. So they're basically trying to use basically their platform in order to scale the use of like AI usage across everybody. So I think they're in a hurry to roll it out before people start catching on that like ChatGPT provides quality answers as well. So I think I would guess end of the year. It might even be by Q4. I think they might slowly do it. I maybe they might slowly kind of roll features because I think it'd be like jarring for your average user to just like have a full 100 LLM experience inside of Google. But I think I could see them like slowly integrating AI mode, whether it's in the sidebar, whether it's like call to action buttons. I could see them kind of like slowly trying to ease everyone into like LLM usage.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting, especially in the holidays. Like if people are doing more of their shopping and purchase behavior through ChatGPT, degradation would be massive, especially from a revenue perspective. So yeah, I think Q4 is a good will be a good like linchpin moment for Google and where they're at.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm curious I'm curious how you think they're gonna how do you think they're gonna monetize it? Do you think they're gonna roll out ads directly in it? Do you think it's gonna be a slow roll?
I think it'll have to be a bit of both. Like I think they can't leave revenue on the table. They have to make it a good experience for users who do want to shop. And the most important part is not degrading the value of the product itself. So like not forcing too many ads into the space that people don't have a good user experience. Is what Google did well for the last 25 years, was at least making ads hyper relevant and keeping people on the platform because the search experience didn't degrade. That's the thing they're going to have to be most mindful of as they navigate through all this is like how much revenue can they push without degrading the user experience, the search experience. And hopefully those things can work hand in hand, which got some good content to talk through today as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised AI overviews based on our topic today hasn't like shifted their ad model too much, but apparently they found a balance between serving AIOs and also keeping like their ads profitable as it's like 80% of their revenue. So I'd be interested to see how AI mode impacts it. But obviously, if we know anything about Google, ads are coming at some point. So I think I suspect they would roll out with like they tend to feel like roll out with like commerce stuff first, or at least like they highlight that and like a lot of their like actual like demos and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see it slowly rolled out to different verticals, but commerce always seems to be like very top of mind for Google because they've traditionally haven't completely won that space with competition from Amazon. So I could see them pushing
True.
commerce hard.
It could be theirs to own.
All right, I'm going to interrupt the two of you and welcome everyone who is joining the chat. As we've mentioned, please let us know where you're zooming in from, what company you're from, and what you're interested in learning today. My name is Kimberly Anderson Much, and I'm the Director of Content here at Agital. You are now tuned in to Dominating Google, how to combine paid search and SEO for unmatched visibility. I know that it feels like it's been getting harder to earn clicks from Google. If you're feeling that way, you're absolutely right. More than half of all US searches now end with 0 clicks. And with AI answers crowding the top of the page, just showing up isn't enough. We're here to show you how smart brands are staying visible, getting clicks, and turning search into real results by using SEO and paid together. So stick around until the end to claim a free paid search and SEO consult. It'll help you see how your brand shows up in search and where you can grow. Let me introduce you to your speakers today. We've got Chris Long, who is the VP of Marketing at GoFish Digital. Chris helps brands solve complex SEO problems with a deep understanding of how Google works, as he's just illustrated. He's a contributor to Moz and Search Engine Land and speaks at top search conferences like SMX and State of Search. You absolutely should connect with him on LinkedIn to learn more. We also have David Dweck, who's the EVP and GM of e-commerce at Go Fish Digital. David leads paid and SEO strategy for e-commerce brands at Go Fish. He's managed over $3 billion in ad spend and has built large teams across search, social, and creative. His focus is helping brands win on AI-driven SERPs. And we can move on to what you'll learn today. So now that you've met David and Chris, here's what we hope you'll walk away with today. How to spot shared keyword intent between SEO and paid, how to build landing pages that convert from any channel, how to use data from one side to improve the other, and how to avoid wasted spend, duplicate work, or drops in performance. Before we get started, we'd like to hop into a poll just to see how everyone's feeling on this topic. So we're going to launch the poll momentarily. Thank you. How prepared is your website for Google, where Google is headed? We have multiple options: very prepared, somewhat prepared, not sure, or not at all. David and Chris, as you're seeing new clients come in, how are you seeing people prepare for the future of Google, if at all?
I think from the SEO standpoint, we're starting to see a lot more people. We haven't seen full preparation yet, as it's like it's kind of an imbalanced stage where people are trying to wait and see what's going on. Are AI is going to stick around? As Dave and I were talking about, when is AI mode going to roll out? I think we're seeing a lot of people start to take the first steps to optimize. But we're actually seeing some very interesting, like just analyzing things like the ChatGPT search results, and even what's appearing in Google's AI mode from the SEO perspective. We're actually seeing some interesting examples of like sites you wouldn't expect to rank or haven't even historically placed, haven't been the SEO leaders in the space for a while, still appearing. So I think brands are starting to still just kind of figure out how they're performing. Some are in better places than others, depending on their internal resourcing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I think we're seeing clients that are with us that are doing SEO wanting to pivot more towards showing up in AI overviews. The irony is a lot of the stuff that matters for SEO will matter for AI overviews as well. And I think the bigger shift on the paid media side is that the things that really matter for shopping, for SEO in general, are the things that are actually going to power AI Max in the future of AI ads, at least in the short term. I think in the next 24 months, things are going to be a lot more generated based off of really strong structured data and clients having a right to actually be a part of an AI overview and an ad experience in an AI overview, because Google and ChatGPT aren't going to want to degrade the experience and lose share to each other and anyone else that's incumbent and coming up. So I think it's really going to be imperative that they focus on quality content and brands focus on quality content and structured feeds from a shopping and e-commerce perspective to really show up effectively and serve up ads or experiences or content that's going to be accretive and value additive to consumers while also driving their businesses forward. It's going to be a different experience, but I think, yeah, the things that mattered historically will matter far more from a paid perspective than paid practitioners may have thought. Like you could run paid media without effective shopping feeds or great SEO, but I think it's going to be harder and harder to do in a future state.
Yeah, interesting. So you're speaking to it being an integrated experience and strategy. Based on the poll results, it looks like 50% of people are somewhat prepared. So you've made improvements, but still have gaps. 25% not sure. We know Google is changing, but we're not sure what to prioritize. Not at all, 18%. And then some of you are very prepared. We've optimized for AI overviews, semantic structure. I'd love to hear in the chat some of the things that you have done to prepare and also things that you need more information about. But we can move on. Chris, I believe you're up, or I'm sorry, David.
It's all good. You have a 50% chance. Awesome. So want to use this slide to really chat through how people are searching in 2025 and also what the landscape really looks like. This is a really revolutionary moment in advertising and media, and more importantly in search, right? I think the behaviors consumers have gotten used to the last 25 years, that brands have gotten used to the last 25 years, are changing dramatically underneath our feet really quickly. I think when I'm hearing from my stepfather and my mother that they're now using ChatGPT for varying searches, I know things have really hit a tipping point, and that when you start seeing the data that Google's losing share, it's time to start rethinking how you're going to market as a brand, and the over reliance that brands have had on search, and really rethinking how they're going about it. So what's changed in 2025? Not a ton in the multi-device space. So like the first box on the left here, people are still using their laptops, their phones, um, to perform searches. But I think the thing that's changing is they're revisiting search engines more and more, because I think they're trying to either dig deeper into a topic or able to prompt things a lot deeper than they were historically. So AI and AI overviews being a big part of this is leading to more conversion. The thing that's most interesting is that it's really not about a click. It's about owning the full funnel and owning all aspects of a response, and trying to create enough content from an SEO perspective and eventually a paid perspective that you're showing up in AI overviews in a way that is driving users to your website and to your brand, or to purchase your brand through a third party or affiliate site, so they can do discovery in ChatGPT or in Google, and then eventually find you in Amazon or elsewhere to purchase. The data we're seeing is that brands are showing up, the brands that are showing up in AI overviews are converting at a higher rate once they click out as a source from ChatGPT, for example, and hitting a website. But they're spending far less time and bouncing far more quickly. So they're doing a lot more discovery offsite, and then able to take action on a brand site very, very rapidly. So it's important that you have unique content to help you show up as a source, but then just as important to have a web page that's going to convert users effectively. So we move over to the next slide. The big thing to really focus on here is it's how people are searching, but also owning real estate, and making sure you're showing up effectively in AI overviews and in search in general. So I mentioned it a bit during the poll responses, but ultimately having really strong structured data, having unique content on your website that isn't AI generated, right? So actually having people write stuff that is differentiated and stands out, but still on topic, is going to be even more powerful and valuable than it has been historically. And optimizing a shopping feed, if you're an e-commerce brand, the same. It's going to be even more powerful and important, for the simple fact that you'll be able to own more real estate, you'll show up in more places, and be a far more valuable source for Google, for ChatGPT, and the other AI-driven LLMs that are around, because they're going to surface what's quality and what's quantitative, and what's driving results, and what's driving actual AI responses or AI overviews. So the more real estate you own, the more custom content you're creating that's bespoke to your brand, that speaks to the marketplace, the more valuable it would be, the more um, dimensions you're able to show about your products in the shopping space, the more valuable it'll be. So the first is, yeah, about owning real estate, and doubling down on creating content and focusing on SEO and structured feeds is going to be more important than ever. And then the right side, combining efforts will lead to higher trust and higher click-through rates. This has been a maxim of search in general for throughout my career. If the likelihood of getting clicked, I think if you're on the first page for both a paid and organic ad, was, I think, a 60% lift. Those are going to be even more important in a future state. But having a really strong foundation as products like AI Max and Google roll out, um, a strong foundation from a content perspective will be what's driving things forward. So um, have valuable content, have good structured feeds will help you show up well, both organically and paid in AI overviews, and within AI LLMs moving forward. Um, why does it pay off? So yeah, brands using both channels currently with Google data, they're seeing a 2.5 times higher return on ad spend or return on investment than brands that are just focused on paid or organic. It does reduce your aggregate cost per acquisition, and allows you to optimize across the full funnel, so you can understand what discovery looks like versus conversion messaging. It lets you control the message even after algorithm shift. So if you get dinged after an algorithm update on the organic side, you still have paid ads that are showing up. And then most importantly, having both in place will help you future-proof your brand and have far more staying power, because uh, structured data and strong SEO will be what drives at least the near-term future of Google Ads. They aren't going to degrade, sorry, the experience within AI overviews by having ads show up that aren't relevant. It's something that made Google Ads so effective in the first place, was the fact that you couldn't just bid on whatever high volume search term. I remember, I'm old enough that I was like, oh, I can't just bid on Britney Spears if you're selling shoes. You got to have something relevant. And the same is going to apply, especially in the short term in AI overviews. Google and ChatGPT, for things the two leaders in the space, they're going to be hyper conscious of making sure the experience for consumers is as strong as possible. And that's going to be driven through quality content and really strong SEO and add relevance to an AI overview that's being served up. So it remains to be seen. Right now, they're serving them on top and on bottom of AI overviews. And so for some users who are seeing those, some aren't, but I think you'll start seeing more ads atop and below AI overviews, and then probably within them in the next 6 months. So making sure you have really strong content that's valuable, that relates to a search even more so than you're doing today, will help future-proof brands from an advertising perspective, because Google will not degrade the experience, because they know that if they do that, they'll lose far more share than they're doing today, they're losing today. Moving along, across the spectrum, it's still important for brands to think through everything. So I think, like, before you can get away with a D2C brand that might be drafting off of a product that's in the space, so you can get away with selling, single origin coffee. If you know the users are searching for that, you could show up with a product page and a brief message that converts people on your website. I think it's going to be far more important to actually have far more information about your products and your services uh, at the top of the funnel, because Google will see the heliocentricity or the value of your content on your website, and the semantic relevance to an AI overview and search, and help you rank better across the funnel. Users are using LLMs to really do far more informational searches, and then get far more down to a product focus or a purchase focused search. So making sure you have robust content that's unique, that's differentiated, but very on target, is going to be of the utmost importance. From there, making sure you're relevant to the category and that your website speaks to the semantic relevance of your space and what your brand is advertising and your products are focused on, will be just as important. And then from a brand search perspective, making sure that you're showing up and then doing so effectively and efficiently. So towards the end of this presentation, we'll talk through the value of brand search and how you should be bidding on it, and how you could use AI-backed bidding technology to actually show up when someone's bidding on your brand name, and also throttle ads off when you're showing up first organically, but there's no competition. So we'll talk a bit about that later on. But ultimately, you want to use SEO for far more demand capture than you might have historically, and paid for demand acceleration to really push users to purchase after they've done their research and they've searched 3 or 4 times. And then, yeah, when to combine versus separate. I think for high margin competitive areas or new product launches, you want to make sure you're combining efforts. If there's a ton of competition, ultimately trying to learn what's working best and adjust is extremely important. But yeah, if dollars are stretched, it's important to understand where SEO has a place to play and where paid has a place to play, and how they can draft off one another. It's important to avoid cannibalization. So yeah, the purple box in the bottom right, if you rank first organically and there's no competition, you could dynamically pause your paid search ads and really still capture that share, still capture that conversion, without having to bid up on things. And then there's also conquesting opportunities here too, where if you see a competitor isn't bidding on certain terms that are their brand, you can show up there dynamically in a far more efficient and effective way on the paid media side or the paid advertising side of search, to own that market share, steal their impression share that they would have otherwise gotten, do so dynamically, which will be far more cost effective than bidding on a competitor's brand when they are showing up. So, yeah, in an ideal world, brands have enough money to really think about bidding on everything and doing SEO for everything. But in a world with finite resources that we all live in, it's making sure you're hyper tactical about what you're doing from a paid perspective, and how to offset where you show up organically, and also how to leverage the industry and competitors to draft off of what awareness they have in the marketplace. Um, and then last one here is to talk about like tools to align your keyword strategy. There's Google Search Console and Google Ads. You can map impression overlap and actually see combined impression volume. This will help you guide how you're actually thinking about bidding and the value you're getting from organic placement to begin with. So it'll help you dial up and down on a keyword or search term basis where you're spending your dollars. There's auction insights reports. So I mentioned on the previous slide around showing up when your competitors aren't, and vice versa, making sure you're throttling ads off when you're showing up first organically for your own brand. So auction insights reporting and impression share reporting, really valuable to help guide a brand through these times and use their budget most effectively. There are shared dashboards that we create for our clients that are invested in both paid and organic search that show you trends for cost per click, click-through rates, revenue. The most important part is as we bolster our clients' SEO over time, we've seen their quality scores increase, their ad rank increase, and their costs come down. So having a combined approach across paid and organic search is of the utmost importance today to drive efficacy and efficiency in a world where there's a ton of cannibalization. Google is now double serving for different brands. CPC inflation is taking place. If you're able to improve your SEO and your product feed experience, your costs will come down. So investing in SEO, it's going to be far more important in the future, but short term as well. You can really drive efficiencies and scale through just optimizing everything around a paid campaign effectively. Beyond that, there's similarity score extensions, which will look at the semantic relevance between your landing pages and keyword intent. This will play a huge role in AI Max, where you can out of the gate through our technology look to negate certain pages that aren't going to convert well, aren't showing up well organically, or aren't semantically relevant. That's a leg up on the competition you'll have as AI Max rolls out within Google, which will allow you to just negate certain pages that aren't going to convert well, and also learn from the pages that are converting well on how to either change content, do conversion rate optimization, or just draft off the content that's working well for one of your topics to another. There's Google Ads and audit tools that we provide to our clients that'll help you identify structural inefficiencies specifically for AI-led campaigns, so you can be more effective and efficient out of the gate. And then lastly, use Google Search Console. It's been valuable the last 20 years, won't continue to be. We're seeing more performance insights come into the Search Console, but the real power we're seeing is combining organic or Search Console data with paid data to really understand the holistic picture of how you're performing across everything, because marketing is never done in a silo, right? There's everything drafts off one another, and if you're able to use both paid and organic effectively, it could be the rising tide that lifts all ships for your brand, and do so very cost effectively. I think we're gonna pause for a poll, but thank you all for that.
Thanks, David. So an additional poll. What's your biggest challenge with when aligning SEO and paid search? Is it keyword overlap and wasted spend, siloed reporting in teams, content that isn't optimized for both, or not enough budget to test combined strategy? And while people are engaging with the poll, it looks like, David, we got a question in the chat from Renata. Can you see that?
Yes, I can. Let me pull it up.
I'm wondering if you could just take a look and let us know your thoughts. It says in Google Search Console, a year-over-year comparison shows a slight decrease in average position on search results page, but a significant decline in click-through rate. You got it?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing this a lot with our clients that despite impression volume being up, that click-through rate or conversions are down, or a combination of the two. I think a lot of this has to do with how Google's changed the search results page in the last 12 months, with AI overviews pushing messages down further beneath the fold of the search results page, as well as consumers getting responses within AI overviews. It's going to lead to decreased click-through rates, but positions staying relatively the same, but the drop in click-through rates, that's directly correlated to them or Google showing more ads above the fold and AI overviews above the fold than they have historically. And knowing how organic rankings have worked throughout my career, the higher up on the page you are, not in terms of ranking per se, but actually just physical space on the page, led to higher click-through rates. So as they've pushed more messaging above the fold, either with maps, AI overviews, the knowledge graph, or even more ads than they've shown before, it's pushed organic results down. So you might still be in the same position in terms of organic ranking, but the reality is you're lower on the page and you're going to get less clicks, or consumers are finding responses and don't have to click through your website because of AI overviews. So this is, hurt SEO practitioners and brands that have ranked well. It's hurt the paid side as well, because people are getting responses without having to click through to websites. But I think a lot of this ties back to what's to come, which is AI mode and AI overviews and LLMs, and making sure you have really strong data from an SEO perspective, and not focusing on the short-term losses, and focusing on what's to gain in a world where generative AI and AI is going to drive results for clients. And the content that you have that's helped you rank organically well will help you show up well in AI overviews. So as Google starts surfacing more sources and relevance within AI overviews, I think your brands will start to gain share back that they've lost in the last 12 months. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to end the poll. It looks like we have a tie between keyword overlap and wasted spend, not enough budget to test combined strategy, followed by siloed reporting in teams, and then content that isn't optimized for both. So we will definitely address these concerns in upcoming content. Chris or David, is there anything that you'd like to speak to when it comes to these results?
I think, yeah, waste to spend is a reality. I was surprised to see salad reporting teams be a bit lower than it was, but yeah, not enough budget to test a combined strategy. I think it's also a trade-off of long and short-term benefits of SEO versus paid ads. And like I think in a future state, trying to figure out how to get the best of both is ideal. We're going to go to market with a lot more SEO value for clients that invest with us on the paid side because we've got some tools that will be able to do so. So maybe for our webinar in July, but I think it'll help clients who have budget limitations, and that's a reality of brands of all sizes. So um, nothing terribly shocking, but good to see the distribution across these.
Great, thank you. All right, let's move on.
Cool. I'll rip through these next couple slides to hand over to Chris, but key thing to keep in mind is you're developing website content and your websites themselves. Obviously, making sure you have a clear value prop at the top of your web pages above the fold to drive conversion. This is what I was referencing before about using AI Max to negate certain pages that aren't converting well. Obviously, still having really strong copy in the middle of the page, below the page, and strong technical SEO are all foundational, but making sure you have a good message to convert users at the top is something that will be even more important in a world with AI overviews and AIMX taking the hold on the paid side. So they're basic, but I think a lot of brands lose sight of the importance of converting users off the bat when they hit a web page. And then this next slide, I think, captures kind of the before and after of how businesses should be thinking about Google. So before, I think you had the ability to invest either in SEO or paid ads and drive your business forward. The world we're headed into, or the after, or what's to come, I think, is that ads won't be as effective if you don't have strong website content, if you don't have a strong product feed, because those are the things that will drive paid ads in the world of AI. So I think making sure you're thinking about both things holistically and figuring out how to bridge the gaps in a world without limitless budgets is going to be the most important thing. So it before was either or, and I think in a future state it's going to be an end statement, right, where you have to kind of have both really strong SEO to drive your paid ads effectively. I think SEO will be important, but it remains to be seen how Google's going to replace the couple $100 billion they're making in search ads today in a world of AI-led advertising. I think they're going to rely a lot on ads, and it will be driven a lot through really strong content and feeds to show up well from a brand perspective. And then, yeah, you can leverage your paid insights to drive stronger SEO copy. So to draft off one another, yeah, make sure you're leveraging your top ad copy in meta descriptions and title tags, borrow your call to action phrasing from your top converting ads and put them on your landing pages, as well as in potentially the schema across your SEO optimizations. And then make sure you're looking at everything across the SERP when you're analyzing results to understand which results and pages are driving the highest click-through rates, so you can mirror that for SEO. So yeah, there's a lack of learnings that go from paid to organic historically. I think it's going to be more important than ever because Google's pivoted paid a lot more towards dynamic messaging and dynamic approach. Leveraging those insights for an organic strategy will help in a future state. And I'll pass it over to Chris, who's going to go through how they can draft off one another far deeper.
Yeah, so I think historically, if you're on the SEO side of the fence, a lot of kind of what David was talking about, one of the biggest challenges we've seen is kind of like siloed teams in terms of like their communications, in terms of the data they find valuable. I personally, I think that's been a mistake, especially on the SEO side of the fence, where it's saying, hey, I do SEO. I'm primarily concerned with the organic traffic side of things. I'm, going to worry about that and not too concerned with what's going on the paid side. I think that's been a mistake historically, actually a very big oversight. I think it's even doubly true now that it's even as users get more fragmented, right? As more AI features come into the search result, I think like the whole search experience just kind of blends together even more than it has ever to this point. And right, as we are seeing clicks dropping from AI overviews, it's going to be more important now to double down and really understand both sides of the fence as much as you can. So I urge SEOs to understand the paid side, right? And I'm going to go over a few tips that have been helpful for me in terms of like what you can learn as an SEO from paid that's, historically has worked and I think will also really serve you well in the future. And one of the reasons is that paid is still right. If you're looking at the query level and if you're looking at AI, you could even extract it to the prompt level. Paid is one of the only places that you can get actual conversion data at the keyword level. Back in 2014, when I first started my career, it was the first thing I saw was like Google took all the keyword data out of Google Analytics, and it was this big ordeal in the SEO industry. SEOs, besides Search Console, have traditionally lacked a lot of query data, especially how valuable those queries are. We know they get clicks, impressions, whatever, but we don't know how valuable they are. Paid is one of the only places you can get that, right? So like even if you just take away one thing, it's like know your paid data, know which queries are driving actual conversions. If you want to extrapolate that into prompts, you then will understand like, hey, what could people potentially like categorically be prompting in order to actually like look at information about our brand. Like if you just do one thing, do this, right? Where it's like, you know, figure out how you can do this, right? So you can go into Google Ads and there's the search terms report. And basically, if you go into Google Ads and click that search terms report, you will be able to see your most profitable, valuable queries. There's some really good ways to kind of like evaluate this. I'll just do the two most simple because that's the ones we traditionally use the most often. One is just figuring out by conversions, right? Like which queries like convert the most, right? So if you're e-commerce, you could do it by revenue. If you're B2B, you could do it by lead volume. Which keywords are, in this example, for a furniture manufacturer, which keywords are driving the most conversions? Well, from an SEO standpoint, you probably should know those terms because your rankings and visibility for them in traditional search or AI search are really going to matter for your business, right? So like understanding which queries are driving the most value is critical from an SEO perspective, and paid gets you there very quickly, especially if you already have that data available. I think another really interesting way is to do conversion rates. Like this will help like more long tail search, right? Like not only what converts well, like what converts well could be dependent on like what you're bidding on, right? So if your company is bidding a lot on a certain query, or your ads are just getting served for that query via Performance Max via your data feeds, um, it can skew things. So conversion rates show you like, hey, not only are you getting conversions, but you're converting really successfully, right? So like this has been really useful from a long tail perspective, where it's like, hey, like we never really thought about it, but couch with pull out bed, like that converts at a 7% rate, which is 5x higher than the rest of our data. So like we really know from an SEO standpoint, we want to be targeting that query. We want to be looking at prompts around what that's doing, because we know from the paid side, it's really valuable for our business. So I like to look at it from both ways. What's driving the most conversions? What's driving the most conversion rate? And then you'll start to have a better understanding of like, hey, from our business perspective, like what search terms are the most valuable for us? And then you can take it a next level in your traditional tracking data. Like we are big on segmentation, so you can actually segment your paid search data and say, hey, I'm going to create a segment that just tracks my highest conversion paid media queries, right? So like now I'll know I can go into my rank tracking tool and say, hey, I'm going to look at my segment and see for my most valuable keywords, how am I performing in that over time? Am I ranking better? Am I ranking worse? What's the deal? So like that's a really valuable way to use this, is to understand the queries and then have systems to track those queries. So you basically have one view of like, hey, how am I ranking against my most profitable queries at any given point? I think it's a really nice takeaway for SEOs and something to get in the habit of doing, right? Is figuring out which queries are driving the most business value and then tracking those specifically. Another thing that's really been valuable for us is like blending paid media data and SEO data. It's really also useful to get you just a more bird's eye view of like which queries are driving the most revenue and conversions versus how you're ranking for them. So in this table right here, you can see I blended on the left here. I converted the query data and the clicks average position. Those are from Search Console. You could also pull impressions in here. But here I can just find, okay, which which queries do I have really low average positions for? Like I'm ranking number 50 for this, right? But I have a ton of conversions for furniture stores near me. Well, like that might indicate we need to build out a local SEO strategy and we really don't have one, right? It's converting a lot, but we might not have an SEO strategy on that side versus, hey, maybe for best sectional couches, I'm ranking pretty well. I'm ranking on the first page. I'm getting 12 conversions. Maybe we don't need to put as much effort into that one, right? So like just having a bird's eye view of like, hey, which paid data, which paid queries are driving the most business, and then how am I ranking for that? Blending this using something like Looker is really, really valuable and doesn't really take that much time. As David was talking about, the auction insights are also critical for SEOs to know. This can help you prevent cannibalization, right? Where you end up bidding on the same things you're ranking for. You can use auction insights, and then you can start to say, hey, what's my search impression share? What's my top of page rate? And you can do this for like the individual like campaigns that you're bidding against, right? And then what you can do on the SEO standpoint is say, hey, for this segment, for these campaigns, we already have a high top of the page rate. We have a 90% top of page rate, right? And we have a high impression share. Well, maybe we don't need to put as much effort because we know paid data is making up, or we can say, hey, on the paid side, we're ranking well, but we also have we're ranking well, but we also have a really high top of page rate or high impression share. Maybe you would divest in those queries if you think you're going to reclaim it back from search. So like you can use this report to really get a database view of like where you're performing from a paid media perspective. And then you can inform on the SEO side, how do you treat that? Do you go more aggressively or less aggressively? Another really, really cool use case for paid media data for SEO is like using AI tools to understand, like, and get insights on your actual paid data. So here I just said, hey, here's 3 months worth of paid queries for my business. Can you analyze it for me and give me some insights, right? And then you're going to upload a spreadsheet to ChatGPT just of maybe your last 3 months of paid data. ChatGPT is then going to actually analyze the results, and then it's going to give actual insights as to which queries or which themes of queries are the most beneficial to your business. So this now just takes it from just looking at the keywords to like using ChatGPT as a data analysis, right? And then actually getting insights and like saying, hey, your top keywords use couch or sectional or sofa. You'll start to get those insights by plugging this into ChatGPT and having it analyze the data on your behalf. So like here I've had ChatGPT analyze some like high value themes. And then for this individual sample set of data, it said sofa, modular are really big query types, right? So like from an SEO perspective, you probably would want to analyze those queries too, right? So like understanding the pay data from an organic side is going to give you a lot more insights into the business value of like what you're trying to perform against. And then what you can do is for some of your top queries, like analyze, right? Like analyze the traditional Google search results. So like, hey, for most comfortable couch, right? Maybe a high converting query. What are the ranking results, right? So here I can see like for the top 3 results, the first is a Reddit thread, the first is apartment therapy, and the next is the New York Times, 2 affiliate sites. So if your brand isn't in that Reddit thread or these 2 top sites, well, it's probably not very visible in Google right now as it's the 4th result or lower. So like your strategy might need to be, we need to pivot toward Reddit a little bit, right? To get included because Reddit's naturally ranking, or we need to extend our affiliate program and kind of do barnacle SEO and improve our page's content and ranking. And so like understanding for your high paid keywords, your top performing keywords, like what are the actual search results? And then conversely, running that same set of data through the LLMs, right? So here I ran most comfortable couches through ChatGPT, and here you can see what it came back with. You're going to audit your brand and say, hey, am I even appearing in ChatGPT for these? We know this is a high value query from the paid side. It's likely a very high value prompt on the LLM side. What are people searching around it? How can I improve my visibility here? Which we'll touch on in our webinar next month in terms of improving ChatGPT visibility, but auditing your critical paid data in both the search results and your LLMs and the LLMs you care about are really, really going to be valuable. As we've been talking about, and it was the question we got earlier, we're seeing this really common theme where like clicks are down, right? But impressions are up. So this is a really good example of a client in this space where it's like they're seeing a drop in clicks, 10, 15% drop in clicks year over year, but they're seeing a surge in impressions, right? And then when you search, a query around what this page is based off of, best harness boosters, we can see strong brand visibility for any one of these companies included in here, right? So like, yes, your clicks might be down, but if the AI overview, right, or ChatGPT is basically giving your brand as the canonical reference, it's a very powerful testament to your brand, right? So you might not be getting the click directly from, you might not even be getting the non-branded click. Most likely what's going on is people are looking at that and then potentially going to your, like, navigating to your homepage or searching more reviews information. So while you're not getting the click directly, it's a very big, it's almost a branded play, right? The impressions are becoming more and more important because of what they mean, and that Google could be literally advocating for your brand in an AI overview, or ChatGPT could be advocating for your brand. So with impression data, we think it's becoming even more valuable because the nature of AIOs makes it less likely that they'll click, but the brand value, the information, people are still searching for that information, and Google is giving that answer as kind of the canonical affirmative result in terms of its top recommendations. As David mentioned, SEOs need to care about this because while ads are not in AI overviews right now, they will be coming to AI overviews. Barry Schwartz of Search Engine Land and Search Engine Roundtable has already seen experience tests where here you can see for something like best bed sheets by size compared, you can see sponsored results appearing directly in the AI overviews. We're guessing they're probably going to even expand these in commerce results first, just because that's what Google pushes so hard in. But we're seeing already evidence of that. And with the rollout of AI Max, we'll see even more evidence of Google rolling out actual ads in AI overviews. So it's even doubly important for SEOs to understand how their traditional search plays, and then how Google Ads plays as a result. And what's interesting here is, like, a lot of these ads might be tied to actual, like, basically informational searches here. So here someone's made a search for how to build a website, and the sponsor results are like Wix, Zapier, Tech Radar. Like, it's actually not even a transactional search, it's an informational type search, and Google will still be showing ads against those. So your traditional, more top of funnel queries, Google might still be trying to monetize those with ads in the AI overviews, right? So it's important to know for SEOs what potential queries are going to be potentially monetized from a paid media perspective, as this is very likely coming in the next year. So far there's been different rumors and speculation around ChatGPT. From what their CEO Sam Altman has said is that he doesn't believe there'll be ads. He said that publicly, but then when kind of peeking behind the actual scenes in terms of some investor reports, OpenAI seems a little more open to having advertising in their models than they have publicly indicated. And they've actually had even forecasts for what their revenues would look like as soon as they'd integrate ads. We would suspect that this is going to integrate slower just because of the nature of the business model, right? OpenAI operates off a subscription model, so they don't necessarily need to monetize in order to, right, make money. But, right, it wouldn't be unbelievable to see ads come to ChatGPT in the midterm, right? So, like, understanding that in a lot of these AI models, most of them are not monetized now. They will likely be in the future.
Thanks, Chris. And then I think lastly, what can Pay learn from SEO? Long-term trends about rising queries is of the utmost importance. Mentioned AI Max and what's coming on that front. It'll help you prioritize and deprioritize which pages you should be focused on for AI Max campaigns for Google. Evergreen content that you should have matching landing pages and ads for, so content development, and then SEO driven topic clusters that can fuel smarter paid campaign structuring. So using your SEO rankings and relevance and semantic relevance to inform what you're doing on the paid side, because we think those two things will be tightly intertwined once ads start rolling out in AI overviews a bit more this year. So with that, I think we got one more poll, but thanks, Chris, for dynamic overview.
So yeah, for this poll, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be offering a paid search and SEO consultation. What we'll be doing is basically looking at your site, looking at competitors, and looking at your current overall paid and SEO landscape. So from an SEO perspective, it will be looking at how are you performing for your top paid queries, what are your biggest opportunities, what are your competitors. From a paid perspective, it would be what do we think could be potentially monetized by AI overviews in the future? Where are you potentially wasting ad spend right now? And what are the biggest opportunities for you to integrate into LLM platforms? We'll also even show you our tools, such as our cosine similarity tool, some of the things that David talked about earlier, where we really talk about how you can get your brand more visible in overall AI search. As we've been kind of talking about here, We know a lot of these LLMs are going to have both more traditional organic results, as well as they're likely, especially Google is going to monetize. So you want to figure out how your brand can be visible in both. So with part of these consultations, we'll be walking you through examples of how we are advising on our existing clients and how we'd advise your brand to be visible in both the search and the paid media side.
Great.
Like,
So we'll leave that poll up for the remainder of the webinar. If we move on to the next slide.
I would talk about the question I've got the entirety of my career. I mean, probably not when I was serving tables at Buca de Beppo, but after that, when I worked in the agency world. But yeah, like, should you be bidding on your own brand name? What's the value of it? Is there a better approach to save money? Because users are likely going to find you anyway. So it really depends on a number of factors. But we've developed AI in-house that will allow you to basically dynamically bid on your own brand if competitors are bidding on it. Or sorry, if competitors, yeah, are bidding on it, you want to make sure you're still showing up to own share and protect the fort. But if your organic ranking is first, we dynamically pause your ads, save you money, and are able to reinvest into things that will drive more incrementality or more incremental performance for a given brand. So it enables us to track brand searches over time, the visibility you're getting, the number of people bidding on your brand itself, and dynamically adjust bids every time a search is performed to make sure that if you're showing first organically, the dollars or your campaigns will be paused on the brand side to then reinvest those dollars elsewhere. So there's a far more intelligent way that we go about it when you're combining a paid and organic strategy, in particular with branded search. And then I also mentioned earlier how you can use this for competitive conquesting really effectively when your competitors aren't bidding on their own terms and they are showing up. You could outrank them for a fraction of the cost you would otherwise to conquest them and bid on their names in paid search. And then, yeah, why do AI overviews make alignment non-negotiable? It's really reshaping what users are seeing. Renata's question earlier around why our click-through rates dropping despite position rankings staying flat or going up. It's really because AI overviews are pushing users or pushing, sorry, eyeballs pushing search results further down the page and eyeballs are staying at the top of the page and getting the responses they're seeing. So making sure you're showing up in AI overviews is the utmost importance because it's really the new SERP that's going to be in place moving forward. I think we'll see Google's traditional SERP stay in place, but really degrade over time the same way certain people still advertise and use yellow pages today, but they won't be, it's probably been 1% of market share in the advertising space for a while for a reason. I think we'll see AI overviews be the new front door into many businesses and topics of interest. And then who's going to win? It's brands that have structured data on the feed side, on the content side from an SEO perspective that have strong offsite citations. So if you're not in the AI summary, there's still opportunity that's awaiting you. If the same maxims and things that have held true on the SEO side, we're able to bear fruit on for our clients within AI overviews and GEO. So there's a lot to come, but I think making sure you double down on creating content that matters, that's sticky, that answers questions will be of the utmost importance. And having a structured product feed on the e-commerce side, if you're selling product on your website, is again going to be more important than ever to show up well within AI overviews and capture consumers the same way you have historically in search. It'll be far more important in a future state where ads are predicated off of really strong SEO and really strong structured product feeds. And then yeah, AI campaigns like AI Max and PMax still need a ton of strategy to win. We've across our client set tested into what's been effective and not across all product types, particularly AI Max and Performance Max. So Performance Max really changes how Google understands user journeys. It allows us to actually learn more as they're now passing more data back about what's actually going to drive relevance on the SEO side. So where users showing up, what are they actually digesting from a content perspective off the search results pages before converting. Product feed quality affects visibility across all channels, particularly within AIMX and PMX. So making sure you've got a feed team that's up to the task to optimize things, push out varying images to make sure you're optimizing images, and more importantly, putting videos alongside a well-structured feed is going to drive far more performance across Performance Max. We've leveraged some really lightweight solutions on the creative side to make product feeds far more valuable in a future state. And then SEO needs to support structured landing pages for Performance Max success. So, uh, as I mentioned earlier, AI Max and Performance Max will be very much predicated on how strong your SEO content is on your website. So don't lose sight of the value there. It's the world where you can just advertise without a strong website or strong content is going away with how Google and ChatGPT are going to surface ads in a future state, which will be predicated on a quality user experience and consumer experience to make sure they're not degrading the value of their products. So continue to invest in SEO, and structured feeds is the main point to win in a future state with AI Max and PMax. Um, I miss HBO Max, but that's just me. Um, I think that's about it for us. Appreciate everyone joining. Please connect with Chris on LinkedIn. He's one of the biggest thought leaders in the space. So stay relevant, stay tied to us. And then, yeah, we've got another webinar coming up next month around ranking and tracking visibility across ChatGPT and AI mode. We think we've cracked the nut through some of our technology on actually scoring how you're showing up today and the recommendations that will help you show up better tomorrow. So, Chris, I don't know if you want to add anything to this too.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of really interesting tests around with our client partners, with our own website. We've actually had a lot of success in new business for us come in from ranking for Corey as like that best digital PR agency. So in that webinar, we're going to be breaking down how we've been able to really perform well in ChatGPT and what we've seen be successful through a combination of content, technical SEO, and our digital PR efforts.
Great, thank you both. I want to open up the webinar to questions. So if you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A or the chat. We do have one question about figuring out which keyword should go to SEO versus paid and which should be shared.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll start from the SEO perspective, right? I think from the SEO perspective, generally there's no harm or risk to improving visibility, right? It almost to me it's always kind of felt like it's always safe to improve visibility from an SEO standpoint, right? Just because you're baiting on a keyword doesn't mean you want to necessarily like not perform for it in the SERPs. As David said, there's even evidence, right, where it's saying, hey, you see higher ROI from showing up in both, right? So like if you're able to improve your visibility or getting an AIO for something that's a very like, revenue or lead driving query for you from the SEO perspective, I think that's all good. So it's like almost, I think from an SEO side standpoint, you should share all of your SEO keywords with the paid team. You should not limit how you perform your strategy. You should actually use the paid data to say, hey, which queries are driving revenue for us, and then how do we adapt our strategies accordingly?
Yeah, I think it's a good build. Like leveraging paid data to inform an SEO strategy a lot of times makes sense because if there's keywords that are valuable but expensive or hyper competitive, it would inform investing more on the SEO side. And then I think understanding how a keyword, either organic or paid, is landing across the consumer journey and seeing all the touch points that those searches are appearing in, right? So they might search something 10 days out before actually converting and purchasing on your website or filling out a lead form. And it's really important to understand where that sort of informational search fits within where you can invest your dollars if, in a finite world of paid or organic, and then making sure you have the right long-term strategy to show up for those things to capture long-term demand and not just focusing on short-term ROI, I think is the main thing to think about when you're thinking across the spectrum of paid and organic. It's like understanding lifetime customer value or the impact of something that may not have a direct ROI associated with it and how that actually might have value in a more holistic sense or in other touch points that lead to an eventual purchase, making sure that you're not losing sight of those things because it may not have a great ROI or last click ROAS. Doesn't mean it's not effective or valuable, and you shouldn't lose sight of that by looking at multi-touch attribution and multi-channel funnels within GA4 to really understand the searches that take place across the entire spectrum of a consumer's journey to purchase or fill out a lead form.
Yeah, that's actually great and leads us into, we have two other questions. I feel like you kind of answered this, but essentially if budget's tight, should a brand prioritize SEO or paid?
Tight's a relative term. I think if you're in the tens of thousands of dollars, SEO is probably your best bet because the cost to really drive impact in paid search will take, typically a lot more than that. There's obviously a lot more short-term benefits and predictability with paid ads. But I think if you're hovering between, a budget of $5,000 to $15,000 a month or somewhere in that ballpark, SEO is a far better strategy to drive long-term impact. And then if you can afford to put paid on top of that, or at least brand campaigns on top of that, we can, make the best use of your dollars very efficiently by dynamically bidding across where you're showing up organic and paid. And hopefully your organic campaigns are driving people to search for your brand long term. So you're able to capture that with paid ads in a, what is likely a hyper competitive marketplace. So hopefully that helps answer the question more directly.
Great. Last question. How does creative play a role in making SEO and paid work together?
And the question was general creative.
Yeah, copy.
Yeah. Well, one thing is, yeah, no, that's another insight you can get. And David touched on it earlier, is like from the SEO standpoint, right? You can actually get data on like what creative works better on the SEO side. So like, for example, you might be running a similar ad with 3 different variants, right? That call out 3 different value propositions of your overall product. Then you can go and see which one has the best click-through rate from search. Or from the SEO standpoint and even the UX side, you can then take that and then say, okay, I know which one has the best click-through rates, the best conversions. Now I can better inform my creative on the organic side as well. So like now I know when I make an optimization for a page, or I write a meta description, or I optimize the heading, what is statistically going to be the most lucrative way to do that. So I think that's another good point in terms of like the copy used on the site. You can also even get insights if you look at enough paid data to say, hey, like which types of landing pages convert better. Now, conversion for Google Ads doesn't always translate to SEO, but you can at least have that data for those insights where it's like, hey, if we structure the page this way, is that more conducive to conversion?
Yeah. And I'd build off that from a shopping feed perspective. Testing different images in your product shopping feed can drive different levels of performance. So either using multiple feeds or testing within your feed itself on some cohort of your products for actual creative can actually give you a sense of lift that you'll generate from having a different product image or a different video that's run within a product feed through either PMAX or other experiences across the world or across the spectrum of advertising placements. Responsive search ads, another way to use dynamic messaging within paid ads to inform an SEO strategy. So it's going to be of the utmost importance. Creative is going to be one of the biggest levers that helps drive outsized gains or comparative advantages in advertising in the future state, because a lot of the work we're doing is being commoditized through AI and automated bidding within each platform, and creative will be the one true differentiator that helps brands really stand out, especially with generative AI being built into platforms in a future state. Everything's going to be like drafted off of, oh, like Nike did, the top shoe brands did this, and here's what your image should look like. I think having something that's differentiated from a paid perspective will help you stay ahead of the curve, because Google and Meta are both going to be driving brands to adopt what's worked well for the industry as a whole, which I think has over time will probably water down the ads and creative that's being shown across platforms. So I think the more that brands invest in unique creative and are able to test quickly, the better those stand out, and then being able to leverage those things across what's working in paid and on the SEO side and vice versa, or the organic side or just web content, the better. So use paid as a testing ground to really learn what's effective and driving outsized results, and then mimic it on your website and your own collateral via email and everything else.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. It looks like this last question is for me, Corwin. You will be getting a copy of a recording of this webinar in your email post webinar, so that should come to you shortly within the next day or two. So I appreciate everyone attending the webinar. Thank you, David and Chris, for sharing your wealth of knowledge. And I encourage everyone to take a look at upcoming webinars and please join us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.